September 11th, 2007, Morgan had just turned 6 2 months beforehand. We had, a few weeks after she turned 6, we found a little bump on her neck. And we thought, well, she must have just a little infection somewhere. It's just a lymph node, whatever. So we went a few weeks later to see her doctor about her annual exam, and her doctor said the same thing. She probably has a scratch somewhere you don't know about. If it gets bigger or doesn't go away, give us a call and we'll check it out again. So a few weeks later, 2 days before school started for the year, I put her hair in ponytails and she turned her head and she had a lump protruding from the side of her neck the size of an egg. At which point, I got a little bit scared, still thinking it must be a really bad infection. So at that point, school started, took her to school, and I never go inside Starbucks, but that day I decided to walk in and get a coffee before I went to school and bumped into her pediatrician. And her pediatrician said, "How's Morgan's neck doing?" I said, "Well, she actually has a pretty large lump now." She says, "Well, let's bring her in, let's look at it." She comes back a few days later and says, "Okay, we're going to go do an ultrasound." After the ultrasound results, she says, "We think it's cat scratch fever." I said, "I don't think so. She's allergic to cats and we don't go around them." And I said, "Honestly, I didn't realize that was a real disease." She says, "Well, that's the only thing we can think of right now." And I said, "Well, do you think it's cancer?" She says, "No, that's the last thing that we will honestly think it is. But we are going to send you to Texas Children's." I said, "Okay." So 5 minutes into the consultation with the oncologist, she says, "You realize it's cancer, right?" I said, "No." That's exactly what I was told. It probably was not. At which point she said, "Well, we're going to do a biopsy in a couple of weeks as soon as we can get her into surgery. We're not too concerned about it because she has no other symptoms. It's just this lump." I said, "Okay, that's great." She says, "But in the meantime, we'll go do a chest x-ray." So we go in, she calls me back that night and she says, "It is everywhere in her chest. The biopsy will happen on Tuesday," which ended up being September 11th. Not my favorite day anyway, because my husband is a pilot and did not know where he was the first September 11th. So we did her biopsy that day. We had a researcher come up and ask us if they could have a portion of the biopsy for research. We said, of course. They ended up coming back later that night and said, yes, it is. We don't know how bad it is yet. We did the CT and PET scans at that point, and it was stage 4. She had it everywhere, on her neck, chest, abdomen, on her spleen, and on her backbone. Luckily, at that point, it had not infiltrated the bone, so we did not have to worry about a bone marrow transplant. They told us it would take up to a year to cure her, but Morgan is one of the strongest people you'll ever meet. She did 4 rounds of chemo and was in remission by January 1st. We got a phone call that day from her oncologist saying, "I know it's the 1st, but we're going to call and let you know. Today is a new year for you guys, and she's in official remission, and you have an appointment on the 4th to start radiation." So we had 3 weeks of radiation above the diaphragm and 3 weeks of radiation below the diaphragm. At which point they said she is going to be tired and need lots of naps. And that did not happen. She was learning to jump rope and would do it all day long. So at which point I told the radiologist, "You said I was going to get naps, and I'm not getting any naps." So Morgan went back to school on March 10th on her little sister's birthday. And it was exactly 6 months from the date of her diagnosis till the day she walked back into school. And so it took half the time of what they said it would take. And each time that we go in for any of her exams, everything is perfectly normal. She's perfectly fine. We're at 2 years and a couple of months at this point, and we're just very excited that she's still in remission, doing well. They told us with the scar tissue on her lungs, she would never be able to run a marathon, yet she ran a 10K in Brenham last month and came first in her age group. So can't tell Morgan she can't do something, because she'll prove you wrong every time. So I would like to thank everybody in Dana Sioux so much for all the research that everybody does and the donations being given, because if it wasn't for the research, Morgan wouldn't be with us today. And we're just so grateful for all of the work that everybody has done. And we just want to thank everyone. So thank you.